Hey guys, and welcome back to Walking with Empires. Today we're taking a little trip. A trip back in time and way up north. The year is 1680, the place is New France. The vast, cold and profoundly lonely territory that will a cosy little log cabin nestled in a silent snow-blanketed forest, a cheerful fire crackling in the hearth, the satisfying thunk of an axe splitting pine logs, the air crisp and clean, smells of evergreen, and a hearty venison stew bubbling over the flames. It's the ultimate off-grid fantasy, a life of rugged self-sufficiency of man against nature, simple, pure, honest. That's the myth. It's a beautiful, Pinterest-worthy lie. The reality, as always, is colder, and a great deal smellier. The truth is that this quiet, solitary life in the frozen wilderness is not a peaceful retreat from the world. It's a slow-motion prison sentence with a high probability of a very unpleasant ending. It's a masterclass in misery you have to pay for with every waking, freezing breath. So, let's debunk this cozy cabin fantasy, shall we? Let's strip away the romance and see what it really felt like. I'm going to drop you right into it, and my guess is you wouldn't last the winter. Congratulations. You are now a French settler, a Fey habitant Fey, alone in the Quebec wilderness. The world outside your door is a churning sea of white, 50 shades of grey and an endless, indifferent blue. The snow isn't a gentle blanket. It's a wall, a tomb. It has buried the paths, buried the landscape, buried any hope of seeing another human face until the thaw, assuming you live that long. So let's start with your home, your rugged, picturesque log cabin. Forget picturesque. This is not a luxury rustic Airbnb, a poorly constructed box made of crudely hewn logs, chinked with a frozen mixture of mud, moss, and probably a fair amount of wishful thinking. The term drafty doesn't even begin to cover it. You have what modern real estate agents would call an open concept living space. This means your bed, your kitchen, your workshop, and your toilet are all enjoying a deeply intimate relationship in a room the size of a modern walk. In closet, privacy, in the center of this box, is the one thing keeping you from becoming a permanent, human-shaped ice sculpture. The fire it does not crackle cheerfully. It consumes your precious, laboriously chopped wood with a terrifying appetite. And it smokes. Oh God, does it smoke? Your state of the art ventilation system is a hole in the roof, which is about as if the air in the cabin is a thick, acrid soup of wood smoke. Your eyes are perpetually red and watering, as if you've been weeping for your poor life choices for 3 months straight, which, to be fair, you have. It's all included in the package. And the fire is a cruel god. It demands constant tribute. It doesn't offer a gentle ambient warmth. It creates 2 distinct, miserable climates within your one-room hell. If you stand close enough to feel its heat on your face, the back of your body is still being assaulted by the sub-zero drafts seeping through the walls. You are simultaneously burning and freezing. One side of you is a steak. The other is a forgotten ice pop at the back of the freezer. You spend your day rotating like a rotisserie chicken, trying to achieve a state of evenly distributed misery. No insulated boots. You have layers, yes, but the layers are made of wool and leather. When you first put them on months ago, they were probably quite effective. Now, they are a second, filthier skin. You have to spend 10 minutes working them near the fire, just to soften them enough to shove your feet inside. You push open the door. It's not a door. Really, It's a few rough planks held together by leather hinges, and it protests with a groan that sounds remarkably like a human soul giving up. The cold hits you. The moisture in your nostrils freezes instantly. Your eyelashes wet from the smoke inside. You take a breath, and it feels like swallowing shattered glass. The silence outside is absolute. It's a deep, profound cosmic silence that presses in on you, broken only by the sound of your own blood pounding in your ears, and the unnerving creak of tree branches straining under the weight of the snow. The world is rendered in black and white. The white of the snow, the black of the tree trunks. It is beautiful in a terrifying, final sort of way, like looking at your own eulogy. And there it is, the woodpile, or what's left of it. The axe head is a lump of old pitted iron. It's probably the most valuable thing you own. It's your tool, your weapon, your only real friend out here, and it wants to kill you. Every swing is a gamble. The wood is pine, and it's dry, which is good, but it's also frozen solid. Sometimes the axe bites in with a satisfying fey-crack-fey. Other times it bounces off the frozen surface with a dull thud that vibrates up your arms and into your teeth, threatening to send the blade skittering off towards your leg. There is number 911. There is no emergency room. A deep gash out here is not an inconvenience. It's a death sentence. You'll bleed out in the snow, or you'll get back inside and watch. Over the next week, as the wound turns black with gangrene, your breath plumes in front of you, a ghostly cloud that hangs in the still air. Your muscles, already weak from a poor diet, scream in protest. The cold seeps deeper. Back inside, it's a sensation called the pins and needles, and it's 1,000 tiny daggers of pain reminding you that you are, for the moment, still alive. You dump the wood by the fire, and the melting snow from the logs creates a dirty puddle on the floor, which will soon freeze into a miniature, treacherous skating rink. You are exhausted, but the day's work is not done, because now you're hungry, the one that smelled so delicious in the fantasy. It was a good-sized buck, and you've been living off it ever since. No spices save for a precious, dwindling supply of salt. You might have a few shriveled, frostbitten onions or carrots you managed to keep in the root cellar, which is just a hole you dug in the floor. They taste of dirt and despair. The meat is tough. It's stringy. You've boiled it for so long it has the texture of wet cardboard, but it's still somehow difficult to chew. And it all tastes the same. Every meal is this meal. Yesterday you had boiled venison. Today you are having boiled venison. A single crisp lettuce leaf. Scurvy is the silent guest in your cabin, waiting for its moment. It's your own body starting to break down. The good news is, if it gets bad enough, your teeth will fall out, which will make chewing the venison, well, impossible. The bad news is everything else. When the wind picks up, the whole cabin groans. The trees outside scrape against the roof, a sound like long fingernails dragging across a chalkboard. The wind howls through the gaps in the logs, creating strange fluting notes that sound almost like a human voice, whispering things you don't want to hear. Is that sound just the wind? Or is it a wolf? You are on land that has been inhabited for thousands of years by people who are not you. The Iroquois, a force of nature as powerful and unpredictable as the winter itself. That crack you just heard, was it a branch breaking under the weight of snow? Or was it a footstep? Your mind starts to play tricks on you. In the flickering firelight, the shadows on the wall dance and writhe. The pile of furs in the corner looks like a crouching beast. The isolation is a solvent. and it's slowly dissolving your sanity. You start talking to yourself. First, just little mutters. Then, full-blown conversations with the axe, with the fire, with the ghost of the deer whose flesh you are currently digesting. The sun, when it appears, is a pale, useless disk that hangs low in the sky for a few hours before abandoning you again to the long, long night. There are no books. You might have a Bible if you're lucky and you're literate, but the flickering, smoky light makes reading a headache, inducing chore. There is no music. There is no entertainment. There is only the endless cycle of chopping wood, eating grey meat, and trying not to freeze to death. Your entire existence has been reduced to a set of basic, brutal biological functions. Stay warm, find fuel, consume fuel, excrete waste. There is no indoor plumbing. You can either open the door and fling its contents out into the snow, creating a frozen, steaming monument to your own digestive process just a few feet from your living space, or you can wait. Most people wait. The good news is, the cold keeps the smell down. The bad news is, it doesn't eliminate it entirely. It just preserves it. The smell of stale urine and old feces becomes a permanent, low-level note in the cabin's olfactory symphony, a foul harmony blending with the smoke, the sweat, and the boiled meat. Modern life is obsessed with eliminating odors. Your life is a curated collection of them, and you are filthy. You are covered in a layer of grime, soot, and sweat. That is a testament to your survival. Your hair is a matted, greasy tangle. Your clothes, they are your constant companions. A tiny, parasitic community thriving in the warm, woolen ecosystem of your clothing. Sometimes you sit by the fire and pick them out of the seams of your shirt, crushing them between your thumbnails with a grim satisfaction. Now the cabin is truly under siege. The fire is your only shield, and you must keep it fed. Waking up every 2 hours to add more logs is not a choice. If the fire goes out, you will not wake up in the morning. There is no memory foam. There are no thread, count sheets. The straw is dusty, and probably home to a variety of small, scurrying things. The furs are stiff and smell of animal and old blood. You don't undress. You climb in fully clothed, pulling more furs on top of you, creating a small, smelly cocoon of body heat. You lie there in the dark. The fire casts long, dancing shadows. The wind moans outside. The cold presses in. Every creak of the cabin, every skittering sound in the walls, every howl of the wind jolts you awake. Is that noise a threat? Is this the night the wolves finally get bold? Is this the night a stray spark from the fire finally catches the tinder? Dry roof. Is this the night your body finally gives up the fight? Not for a weekend, not for a week. This is your life for 5, maybe 6 months of the year, an endless, grinding, miserable loop of cold, hunger, loneliness, and fear. So, next time you are feeling a bit down, maybe your Wi-Fi is slow, or your favorite coffee shop is out of oat milk, I want you to take a second. I want you to think about this cabin. Think about the bone, deep cold, the choking smoke, the endless grey stew, the profound soul, crushing loneliness. Think about the simple, brutal reality of a life. Go to your refrigerator, which is full of a magical variety of foods that would seem like a king's feast to you. Right now in this cabin, take a long, hot shower. Appreciate the sheer, unadulterated luxury of not having to worry if a gust of wind is going to be the thing that finally kills you. The past isn't a storybook. It is a cautionary tale, And it was, for the most part, absolutely, unequivocally miserable. Be glad you're just visiting in that little snow globe fantasy of yours. The crackling fire, the scent of pine, the hearty stew, a perfect little slice of rustic off-the-grid living. It's the kind of thing people pay a lot of money for now. A weekend retreat, a digital detox. Congratulations, your cozy little fortress against the wilderness. The first thing you need to understand is that the word cozy is a modern invention for people who have never had to endure genuine life. Threatening cold your cabin is not cozy. A poorly made box, assembled with the kind of craftsmanship you'd expect from someone whose primary motivation was, "I need to not be dead by nightfall." The logs don't fit together perfectly. Of course they don't. You're not a master carpenter. You're just some poor, hopeful soul from Normandy who thought anything was better than another season of feudal obligations. So there are gaps everywhere. Stuff them with a charming local slurry of mud, moss, and probably a bit of animal dung for that authentic, earthy aroma. This is the 1680 equivalent of spray foam insulation, and its performance is underwhelming. Every gust of wind is a personal home invasion. You feel it as a physical presence, a cold finger tracing the back of your neck, a whisper of pure Arctic malevolence that slips through a crack near the floor and licks at your ankles. You are constantly hunting for these drafts, plugging them with a spare rag, a clump of moss, a handful of snow, anything. And every breath it takes is trying to steal the warmth from your body. You see, the architectural marvel that is your new home features a revolutionary piece of technology, a hole in the roof. This is your chimney. It's an open-concept ventilation system. The problem with this design is that it's about as effective at drawing smoke as a screen door is on a submarine. So the air in your cabin is not, as the fantasy suggests, filled with the clean scent of pine. It's filled with smoke, thick, greasy, acrid smoke that stings your eyes until they're perpetually red, rimmed and weeping. It's a dry, hacking sound that becomes the rhythm of your life. In the morning, you cough up a little black nugget of soot. Your bedding, your clothes, your hands, your food. You taste it in your water. You are. It's not just pine. It's pine, yes, but it's buried under the dominant notes of stale smoke, boiling venison grease, your own unwashed body, and the faint, damp earth smell of the floor, which is, of course, just packed dirt. It's not an unpleasant smell, you might tell yourself at first. It's the smell of survival. After a month, you'll realize it's the smell of a tomb you're still living in. The fire is the center of your universe. It is your sun, your God, and the handle is worn smooth, in some places splintered in others. It is, to use a modern term, a tool with terrible ergonomics. They are a roadmap of your suffering, etched in blisters, calluses, and splinters. You dig the splinters out at night by the firelight with the tip of your knife. A little ritual of self-mutilation. Sometimes you get them. Sometimes they just burrow deeper, festering into angry red pustules that throb with every swing of the axe. The cold is your constant companion during this chore. It's a physical weight. It makes the wood brittle and unpredictable. More often, it's a stubborn, stringy piece of birch that just absorbs the blow with a dull thud, the impact vibrating up the handle and into your already aching shoulders and teeth. Your breath freezes in the air before you, a cloud of your own life force being stolen by the forest. Sweat freezes on your brow. Your toes, wrapped in layers of wool and stuffed into moccasins, have long since lost all feeling. You just hope they're still there. It's a fun little game of chance you play every day. Frostbite roulette. And you can never chop enough. The pile of wood you thought was a monumental achievement, a testament to your hard work, is devoured by the fire in a day too. If you're lucky, the hunger of the flames is matched only by the hunger in your own belly. You are locked in a desperate symbiotic relationship. You feed the fire to keep from freezing, and the fire's existence makes it necessary for you to go out into the freeze to feed it. It's a perfect closed loop of misery. You find yourself talking to the fire, pleading with it, cursing it. You bank the coals at night with the meticulous care of a brain surgeon, praying that a single stubborn ember will survive until morning. If you wake up to a cold, grey pile of ash in a room that is now the same temperature as the outside world, well, that's a very, very bad day. That's a day that starts with you fumbling in the near. You haven't known true fear until you've tried to start a fire when you are already freezing. Now, let's get to that venison stew, the centerpiece of your winter's survival menu. It smells good, doesn't it? Let's get a little closer. Lean over the pot. What you're smelling is boiling meat. That's it. There are no herbs, unless you count the pine needles that accidentally fell in. There are no spices. Not really. Salt is a precious commodity, transported at great expense from France, or harvested through laborious trade. You use it sparingly, hoarding it like gold. Garlic powder, that's the stuff of kings and merchants in faraway cities. And salt, if it's a special occasion. Maybe you were lucky enough to have a small turnip or a few shriveled onions from your pathetic little garden before the frost killed everything. You threw them in. They dissolved into a flavourless mush days ago. You shot that deer. What? You smoked some of it, salted some of it, and hung the rest in the cold. How cold is it? Cold enough. Seems okay mostly. The taste is monotonous. It's the taste of greasy, stringy, over-boiled meat. The fat has rendered out and floats on top in a shimmering gelatinous layer. You skim some of it off to save for other purposes. Waterproofing your moccasins, greasing your tools, maybe even as a crude lamp fuel or a skin moisturizer. You might supplement it with Feisagamit Fei, a thin, watery gruel made from pounded corn. It has the taste and texture of wet cardboard. It's filling in the way that eating sand is filling. It fills your stomach, but it does not satisfy you. It's fuel, not The bad news is, you're slowly dying of malnutrition. Remember vegetables. The memory is so vivid, it's almost painful. You can feel the snap of the skin, the burst of sweet juice in your mouth. That memory is your enemy now, because here, in your little kingdom of meat and snow, vitamin C is a forgotten legend. You feel your gums. You have a loose tooth in the back. You wiggle it with your tongue. Probably nothing. Just a little wiggle. Scurvy is a sailor's disease, right? Happens on ships. It couldn't possibly happen to a hardy woodsman living off the fat of the land. Could it? You push the thought away. It's just paranoia, brought on by the silence. But the silence isn't really the relentless howl of the wind. And there are other sounds, the sounds of your own body. And this brings us to a topic our romantic fantasies tend to gloss over: personal hygiene. Complex. Bathing is not a thing. Not in winter. The very idea is laughable. Your water source is a hole you chopped in the frozen creek 100 yards away. The act of fetching water is a dangerous expedition that leaves you gasping and half frozen. You are not going to waste that precious hard-won liquid on washing yourself. That water is for drinking and for the stew. That's it. So you don't wash you. You wear the same set of clothes day in, day out, for weeks, for months. Your outfit consists of a linen shirt, woolen breeches, thick woolen stockings, and a leather jerkin, or a heavy wool coat called a fakerpote at night. You just loosen your belt and fall onto your bed, which is a pile of fir boughs covered with a few furs or a coarse blanket. Your clothes become a second skin. A very, very dirty second skin. That linen shirt, the one against your body, it's a historical document. It has recorded every drop of sweat, every splash of grease, every trickle of blood from a splinter or a shaving cut. Because you are not alone in your cozy cabin. You have roommates, millions of them. They live in the seams of your clothes, in the matted mess of your hair. They are lice, body lice, head lice. They are an unavoidable part of your existence. The itching is a form of torture. It starts as a little tickle. You scratch it, but the relief is momentary. It comes back, angrier a fiery, maddening prickle that spreads across your back, your scalp, under your arms. You rake your fingernails across your skin, seeking the sweet, fleeting pleasure of the scratch, even though you know it only makes it worse. At night, you are woken up by the sensation of a tiny army crawling over you. You lie in the dark, listening to the wind, and you scratch. And scratch. And scratch. Your skin is a war zone. A canvas of red welts, scabs, and angry scratches. Sometimes, one of those scratches gets infected. It starts as a small, tender spot. Then it swells. It turns a dark, ugly red. It throbs with a life of its own. A deep, painful pulse that mirrors your own heartbeat. You watch it with a mixture of fascination and terror. You have no antibiotics. No, your medical kit consists of a dirty knife and a vague hope that you don't get sepsis. You might try a folk remedy, a poultice of chewed up leaves, or maybe just pressing the hot blade of a knife against it to burn the poison out. It is your own little frontier surgery show, starring you with a 50/50th chance of being the series finale. And the smell, let's circle back to the smell. It is the sour, pungent odor of stale sweat baked into unwashed wool. It's the smell of rancid hair grease. It's the faint, coppery scent of blood from the scratches. It is the musky, animal smell of the furs you sleep on. When you move, you release a little puff of this personal miasma into the air. It mingles with the smoke and the grease to create a unique perfume. Eau de misery. You try not to think of no toothpaste. Sometimes you might chew on a twig to scrape off the worst of the film. But mostly, and nature is a cruel, indifferent dentist. Your mouth is a swamp of bad taste. A real screaming toothache in this wilderness is a death sentence. There is no one to help you, no one to pull the tooth. Your only option would be to try it yourself with a pair of pliers from your toolkit, after drinking as much of your precious, meagre supply of brandy as you can stand. The thought is so horrific, you quickly shove it back down into the dark place where you keep all the other terrifying thoughts. This is your reality. It is a grinding, filthy, itchy, painful existence on the absolute razor's edge of survival. The simple act of being alive requires a level of constant, exhausting effort that your modern mind can barely comprehend. There is no comfort. There is no ease. There is only the cold, the hunger, the dirt, and the crushing soul, destroying loneliness. You sit by the fire, poking at the stew with a wooden spoon. The wind shrieks, rattling the crude wooden shutter over the hole that serves as a window. Was that just the wind? it sounded different. It sounded like a footstep, a twig snapping. Your head jerks up. You stop breathing. It's not one of your modern, featherlight, ergonomically perfected miracles of polymer and steel you buy from a big box store. This is a lump of soft, sullen iron, crudely hammered into a wedge shape and jammed onto a handle that was probably carved by the last poor soul who owned it. The balance is all wrong. It feels like you're trying to swing a rock tied to a stick. There is only a dull, jarring thud that travels up the hickory handle and into your bones, rattling your teeth and sending a shiver of protest through your already aching shoulder. You swing again. Fey frack fey. There it is. That sound, for a split second, it's satisfying. A small victory against the vast, oppressive silence of the forest. The two halves of the log fall away into the snow, exposing a pale, almost white interior that releases a puff of scent into the freezing air. It's a beautiful smell, sharp, clean, resinous, the smell of life, of fuel, of another few hours of not freezing to death. You breathe it in, a tiny moment of luxury. Then you look at the woodpile, and you know, with the certainty of a condemned man, that it's not enough. It's never enough. The fire in the centre of your little kingdom, your 10 by 10 foot hovel, is a ravenous, insatiable god. It demands constant. Every log you split is a prayer for the sun to come back, a prayer for the snow to melt, a prayer that you'll wake up tomorrow. The cold is a physical presence. It's not just an absence of heat. It's a predator. It seeps through the 3 layers of wool and worn leather you're wrapped in. Sit finds the tiny gaps in your mittens, which are really just crude leather bags sewn together with sinew, and it bites your fingertips until they burn with a white-hot numbness. You can feel the moisture from your breath freezing in the rough wool scarf wrapped around your face, creating a tiny personal glacier against your skin. Every breath is a gamble, a sharp intake of air, so cold it feels like swallowing tiny needles of glass. Your lungs ache with a deep, persistent soreness. You've been coughing for weeks now, a dry, hacking sound that echoes unnervingly in the stillness. Sometimes you cough so hard you see stars, and a little flicker of panic ignites in your gut. A lung infection out here isn't a minor inconvenience you treat with antibiotics. It's a death sentence, delivered slowly, one ragged breath at a time. Your back screams, your hands, despite the mittens, are a raw collection of blisters, some old and calloused, some new and weeping. The handle of the axe is sticky with a combination of pine resin and something you try not to think about, probably blood from a blister that burst yesterday. You position another log on the chopping block, a wide, flat stump that has seen better centuries. You take a moment. If you rush, if you get sloppy, the axe could slip it, could glance off the frozen wood and bury itself in your shin. And then what? There's number 911. There's no emergency room. There's no one to call for help, because the nearest human being is probably 20 miles away, and they're just as trapped as you are. An injury like that, a deep cut, means a frantic, clumsy attempt to stitch it up yourself with a dirty needle and thread. It means infection. It means gangrene. It means a slow, feverish, agonizing death, alone in a smoky hut, while the fire you can no longer feed slowly dies out. So you take your time. You plant your feet. You measure the swing. This isn't some bearded hipster's fantasy of getting back to nature. This is a high-stakes, low-reward job with a zero-tolerance policy for mistakes. It is not a spiritual guide. It is a supremely indifferent entity that is actively, if impersonally, trying to kill you. and your only defense is this pile of wood. You curse the word, a plume of white vapor that is instantly snatched away by the wind. Sweat, shockingly cold, trickles down your spine. This is your reality. Not a moment of quiet contemplation in the woods, but a brutal, repetitive, soul-crushing cycle of labor, where the only prize for winning is getting to play again tomorrow. This is your full-time job, your workout routine, and your existential crisis, all rolled into one. The pay is terrible. Finally, the log splits. You don't even feel relief anymore, just a leaden sense of resignation. You gather the splintered pieces, your arms trembling with fatigue, and stumble back towards the cabin. The cabin, let's not call it a cabin. That implies a certain rustic charm, a cozy retreat. This is a box, a crude box made of logs that don't quite fit together, stacked by someone whose primary architectural goal was not getting immediately eaten by a bear. The gaps are chinked with a mixture of moss, mud, and what you hope is dried grass. From the outside, with snow piled halfway up its walls and smoke curling from the hole in the roof, it might look quaint, picturesque. Even from the inside, it's a different story. You push open the door, a heavy, ill-fitting slab of wood that scrapes against the packed earth floor, and you are hit by the smell. Oh, the smell. The reality is layered. It's a complex, unholy symphony of odors that would make a modern health inspector weep. Yais, there's pine, but it's not the fresh, clean scent from the forest. It's the acrid, choking smell of pine smoke. The fire doesn't have a chimney, you see. That's a premium feature you couldn't afford. You have a smoke hole, a simple, unadorned, the key word here is supposed to. It hangs in the air in a permanent grey-brown haze, thick enough to taste. It coats everything. The walls, the ceiling, your clothes, your skin, the inside of your lungs, with a fine, greasy layer of soot. You are being slowly, inexorably smoked, like a piece of cheap bacon. Like a piece of cheap bacon. It's the same stew, you just keep adding water from melted snow. And if you're lucky, a few more stringy chunks of deer meat from the carcass hanging frozen outside your door. The aroma isn't the rich, savory scent of a gourmet meal. It's the heavy, greasy, slightly gamey smell of boiled meat, a smell that has permeated the very wood of the cabin. It's the smell of monotony. It's the only thing you've eaten for weeks, and the only thing you will eat for months. And then there are the other notes in this olfactory orchestra. There's the sour, pungent tang of unwashed human. You haven't had what you would call a bath in 4 months. A wash consists of rubbing a handful of snow on your face and hands, an experience so breathtakingly unpleasant, you put it off for as long as possible. Your clothes, which you never take off, smell like a damp collection of old rags that have been stored in a smokehouse next to a goat. There's the faint, musty odour of the furs you sleep on, which are probably home to a thriving community of fleas and lice. And beneath it all, you hear them at night, rustling in the walls, and you've learnt to live with it. They're a minor annoyance compared to the gnawing cold and the crushing loneliness. You dump the firewood near the hearth. The hearth isn't a charming brick fireplace. It's a shallow pit in the middle of the floor, lined with rocks. The fire in it is the heart of your world. It is light, it is warmth, it is life. It spits embers that can set your furs on fire while you sleep. It devours your precious wood with terrifying speed. If you stand right next to it, your front is roasting while your back is still freezing. The heat rises, hits the roof, and is immediately sucked out through the 1,000 tiny cracks in the walls. The corners of the room are perpetually frozen, Water left in a bucket a few feet from the fire will develop a skin of ice overnight. You live your life in a constant dance with the fire, turning like a rotisserie chicken, trying to get all sides evenly cooked. You stir the stew with a wooden spoon. The venison is tough, stringy. You shot the deer in late autumn. You butchered it yourself, a bloody, messy, frantic job in the freezing cold. Your hands numb, the flies buzzing with a grim persistence, even in the chill. You smoked some of it, but it's been a long time. The meat has a certain tang, a hint of decay. You try to ignore. You tell yourself, it's just the smoke. You have no vegetables, no bread, no fruit. Just this, meat and water. You try to fight it. You chew on pine needles sometimes, hoping the bitter taste means there's some virtue in them. You boil them into a foul-tasting tea. Does it work? Who knows? Fail, you become a fascinatingly well-preserved corpse for someone to discover in May. The silence is the other enemy. During the day, it's manageable. The rhythmic chunk of the axe, the crackle of the fire, the bubbling of the stew, your own ragged breathing. These things fill the void. It's so absolute, so profound, that your own heartbeat sounds like a drum in your ears. You lie on your pile of furs, staring up into the smoky darkness, and you listen, and you always hear something. A sudden fey from the forest. Is it a tree branch, heavy with snow, finally breaking? Or is it something else? Something moving. The low, mournful howl of a wolf is almost a comfort. At least you know what it is. It's the other sounds that unravel you. The soft, shuffling sound outside the wall. A mouse. A mart, but the wind doesn't have footsteps. You don't have a window. Glass is an absurd luxury. To have one would be like having a private jet. You have no way of seeing what's out there without opening the door. And you're not going to do that. Not in the dark. Your imagination, starved for stimulation, begins to work overtime. It populates the darkness with all the horrors you've ever heard of. Wendigos loop. Restless spirits. Men who might look at your little column of smoke not as a sign of life, but as an advertisement, an invitation. Limited supply. It's a clumsy, heavy, unreliable piece of equipment. In this cold, the powder could be damp. The flint could fail to spark. You get one shot, and you'd better make it count. Sleep doesn't come easily. It's not a peaceful rest. It's a shallow, fitful state of near consciousness, a series of brief, anxious naps punctuated by waking with a jolt. Your heart pounding, straining to hear if that sound is still there. This isolation is a kind of acid. It slowly dissolves your sense. You talk to yourself. A lot. At first, it's just to hear a voice. Then you start having conversations. You thank the axe when it splits a log cleanly. You have long, detailed discussions with the mice about their share of the rations. You are the king, the jester, and the entire population of your own private, miserable kingdom. There's a fine line between solitude and madness, and you walk it every single day. You spend hours just staring into the flames, your mind a blank, watching the patterns shift and change, because it's better than thinking. Thinking leads to remembering. The romantic image of the lone frontiersman, master of his domain, is a lie. A beautiful, comforting lie we tell ourselves, because the reality is too bleak to contemplate. The reality is that you are small and fragile and utterly, terrifyingly alone. The crisp crack of the axe in the silent woods isn't a sound of triumph. It's the sound of a man desperately trying to convince himself that he still exists. The fragrant pine and stewing venison aren't the smells of a cozy home. They are the smells of a prison where you are the guard, the warden, and the sole inmate, serving a life sentence with no guarantee of parole. And the only thing you know for sure is that winter is long, and you have so much more wood to chop. Hey guys, let's talk about getting away from it all. You know the fantasy, the little cabin deep in the woods, snow falling silently outside, a fire crackling in the hearth. It's the ultimate dream for anyone who's ever been stuck in traffic or had to sit through a 3-hour meeting that could have been an email. We've all seen the pictures. We've all read the books. The solitary figure, silhouetted against the vast white wilderness. Strong, capable, free. Well, today we're going to take that beautiful, cozy, romantic fantasy, douse it in rancid bear grease, and set it on fire. Because the reality of that life, specifically in the winter of 1680 in New France, was a special kind of miserable that modern brains have a hard time even processing. The truth is, you wouldn't last a week. You'd be a frozen, half-eaten cautionary tale by mid-January. So, let's go. Pack your bags. Don't worry. You've traded your heated apartment and your grocery delivery service for a one-room cabin somewhere in the endless, frozen expanse that will one day be called Quebec. You wanted to get away from it all. Mission accomplished. The nearest settlement that could be generously called a town is 100 miles away, and the snow has made that distance functionally infinite. You are utterly, profoundly alone. Let's start with your new home. This isn't a luxury log cabin from a rental website. This is a box of misery held together by little more than stubbornness and frozen mud. The logs are rough, hewn full of splinters, the size of small daggers. The gaps between them are chinked with a mixture of moss, mud, and what you hope is animal hair. This isn't for rustic charm. It's a desperate and failing attempt to keep the wind out. The wind. You never thought much about the wind before. Now, that would be too dramatic, too operatic. It's the sound of the universe reminding you that it wants you dead. Each gust of wind that slips through the walls feels like a cold, wet finger tracing your spine. You're wearing every piece of clothing you own. Coarse wool, stiff leather, maybe a blanket draped over your shoulders. And you are still cold. Not chilly cold. A deep penetrating cold that settles in your bones and makes your teeth ache. A cold that feels less like a temperature and more like a malevolent presence in the room with you. The centerpiece of your new life is the fire. It's your television, your furnace, your stove, your only light source, and your primary source of indoor air pollution. It's a demanding, insatiable god. It crackles and pops, spitting embers onto the packed earth floor. You're constantly vigilant, nudging the logs, feeding it more of your precious hard-won firewood. The smoke is a constant companion. Your cabin doesn't have a chimney in the modern sense. It has a smoke hole, a crude opening in the roof that is, in theory, supposed to let the smoke out. The key phrase there is, in theory. In practice, a significant percentage of the smoke decides it rather enjoys the indoor life and chooses to stay, hanging in a thick, greasy cloud in the upper half of the room. The air quality in here makes a 1970s bingo hall seem like a pristine alpine meadow. Your eyes are perpetually watering. You have a constant, hacking cough. Every breath is a trade, off life, giving warmth, in exchange for a slow, methodical poisoning of your lungs. The inside of your nostrils are permanently coated in a thin layer of black soot. When you blow your nose, into your hand, of course, what did you think? You have tissues. Let's talk about that romantic image of you, the rugged woodsman chopping wood. The clean, crisp crack of the axe biting into pine. It's not like that. It's a grueling, endless, soul-crushing chore. Every single piece of wood you burn had to be felled, limbed, dragged through waste, deep snow, and split by you, with your axe. It is also, statistically speaking, the object most likely to kill you. Your hands are numb with cold, your fingers clumsy and stiff. Every swing is a gamble. One slip, one moment of inattention, one glance at a strange shadow in the trees, and the razor-sharp head of that axe isn't biting into pine. It's biting into your shin end. There's number 911. Your last moments on Earth will be a frantic, pathetic attempt to staunch the flow of your own hot, steaming blood onto the pure white snow. The hissing of the wind, your only funeral dirge. The good news is, the cold will numb the pain eventually. The bad news is, it will do so by killing you. You'll become another frozen curiosity for the wolves. But let's assume you don't sever a major artery. You still have to chop the wood. It's an exercise in diminishing returns. You burn calories to chop the wood that you will burn to keep from freezing to death. It's a perfect closed loop of misery. The sound isn't a satisfying crack. It's a dull, wet thump as the axe sinks into the frozen wood, followed by the grunt of your own exertion. Your back screams in protest. Your shoulders burn. The sweat you work up freezes in your beard and on your clothes the moment you stop moving, encasing you in a personal shell of ice. You have to chop enough to last the night, enough to last the next day, enough to survive the next blizzard that could last a week. The wood pile is never big enough. It's a monument to your own Sisyphean struggle against entropy. Let's go back inside. The air is thick with two competing aromas. The first is that pine resin from the fire. Your personal hygiene has been downgraded. Significantly, to get water, you have to go outside, scoop up buckets of snow, bring them inside, and melt them over the fire, a process that consumes an enormous amount of time and firewood. And for what? To splash some lukewarm, smoky, tasting water on your face. Your clothes are a composite of sweat, soot, spilled food, and whatever else you've come into contact with. You wear them 24/7. You sleep in them. You work in them. They have achieved a level of filth that is almost geological. They smell like a damp dog that's been rolling in bacon grease and despair. Your hair is a matted, greasy tangle, home to a thriving ecosystem of God knows. What lice? Absolutely. They're your tiny, blood-sucking roommate's privacy. What is that? Option 1 is the great outdoors. This involves finding a spot not too far from the cabin. Frostbite on your most sensitive areas is a real and terrifying possibility. Option 2 is the chamber pot. A bucket. A simple wooden bucket that lives in the corner of your one-room existence. It sits there, a silent, fragrant testament to your biological reality. It shares the same air you breathe, the same air your food is cooked in. The good news is, you don't have to go outside. The bad news is, you have brought the outside. It's a sharp, ammoniacal stench that cuts through the smoke and the pine and stakes its own undeniable claim on the territory of your nostrils. And, of course, at some point, the bucket gets full. And then it becomes your job to take that bucket of frozen human waste outside and dump it. This is your morning routine. This is your rise and grind. Now, let's talk about that simmering pot over the fire. The venison stew. It's the other smell in the cabin, the one that promises sustenance. You butchered it in the snow, your hands numb, the steam rising from its body in the frigid air, the tougher, stringier muscles from the legs. Salt is a currency, a treasure, more valuable than gold out here, and yours ran out a month ago. The stew is bland, greasy, and monotonous. You eat it for breakfast, you eat it for lunch, you eat it for dinner. One day it's a leaden knot of constipation. The next it's a sudden explosive rebellion that sends you scrambling for the bucket. There is no in-between. There is no Pepto-Bismol. And there's a ticking clock scurvy. You've heard stories from other trappers. The gums that get soft and spongy, bleeding at the slightest touch. The teeth that loosen in their sockets, one by one, until you can pluck them out with your fingers. The old wounds that mysteriously reopen. The lassitude, the deep, unshakable fatigue that settles over you until you just don't have the energy to get up and feed the fire anymore. You try to remember to chew on pine needles. You heard they help. They taste bitter and terrible, and you're not sure if it's working or if it's just another grim joke. The wilderness is playing on you, so you sit there in your smoky, stinking, freezing little box. You've chopped the wood, you've tended the fire, you've eaten your bland, greasy stew. It's dark outside. It's been dark for hours. What do you do now? There's no book. The only book you own is a Bible. And you can't read, even if you could. It's too dark to see the words. And the firelight makes the shadows dance in ways that play tricks on your eyes. There's no music, no podcasts, no one to talk to. There is only the silence, and the sounds it contains. The hiss of the wind, the frantic, desperate scratching of a mouse in the walls, the distant, mournful howl of a wolf that sounds a little closer than it did last night, and the sound of your own thoughts. This is the real enemy, not the cold, not the hunger, not the axe. The silence, the isolation. At first, you welcomed it, a respite from the noise of the world. Now, it's a physical pressure. It presses in on you from all sides. Your mind first, just little mutters. Then, full-blown conversations. You have lengthy, detailed arguments with the fire. You give the axe a name. Are they real? The line between the real and the imagined has become as blurry as the view through your one tiny, animal-hide window. You lie down on your bed, a pile of pine boughs covered with a flea-ridden blanket. But you don't sleep, not really. You drift in a state of semi-conscious exhaustion. Every snap of a twig outside jerking you back to full, heart-pounding alertness. Is it a bear, woken from its hibernation by hunger? Is it a raiding party from a competing fur company? Is it one of the Iroquois, who have no love for the French encroaching on their land? The possibilities are endless, and they are all bad. Your pre-modern existence comes with a very modern problem. Crippling anxiety. The difference is your anxieties are all entirely justified. You think about the world you left behind, the village, with its noise and its smells and its people. You hated it then. You hated the gossip, the petty squabbles, the lack of privacy. Now you would give anything, to smell another person's unwashed body, to hear a voice that isn't your own, to feel the press of a crowd. You crave the simple, profound reassurance that you are not the last person on earth. But you are, or at least you might as well be. You are the sole inhabitant of your own frozen planet. Your universe has shrunk to the size of this single, smoky room. Your life has been reduced to a simple, brutal equation. Wood equals fire. Fire equals warmth. Warmth equals life. Everything else is a distraction. This isn't a life. It's you are the fortress, and the world is the enemy. And the world has infinite patience. It doesn't need to storm the walls. It just needs to wait. Wait for you to make a mistake. Wait for the food to run out. Wait for the sickness to take hold. Wait for your mind to crack under the strain of the vast, indifferent silence. This is the reality of the simple life. It's not simple. It's crushingly, terrifyingly complex. Every single day is a final exam, and the only passing grade is survival. There are no holidays. There are no sick days. There is no safety net. There is only the cold, the dark, and the crushing, absolute certainty that if you stop moving, you will die. And the smells, my God, the smells, the acrid smoke, the cloying stench, it's a symphony of foulness that you can't escape. It clings to your clothes, your hair, your skin. It's the first thing you smell when you wake up and the last thing you smell before you fall into your fitful, nightmare-ridden sleep. So, the next time you're sitting in your comfortable home, perhaps annoyed that the thermostat is a degree off, or that your food delivery is 5 minutes late, I want you to do something for me. Close your eyes and imagine that the air you're breathing is thick with smoke, that the only thing to eat is a greasy organ, meat stew, and that the only sound is the hissing of a wind that wants to freeze the marrow in your bones. Imagine the deep primal fear of being utterly and completely alone in a world that is actively trying to kill you. Then open your eyes. Look around at your ridiculously, obscenely luxurious 21st century existence and be grateful. Be profoundly, deeply grateful, because you are not the rugged individualist in the winter cabin. You are the soft, pampered descendant who gets to watch videos about it from the comfort of a climate-controlled room. And trust me, that's a much better deal. The good old days were mostly just... The good news is, your little self-improvement project is going splendidly. You've mastered the art of listening. Truly listening, you listen to the fire hiss and pop, a constant chattering companion. You listen to the groans of the green logs as they surrender their moisture to the flame. You listen to the wind of the times. You've learned its moods, its cadences. You can tell, just by the pitch of its whistle around the corner of the cabin, whether it's carrying new snow or just rearranging the old drifts. You are, in effect, a connoisseur of wind, a sommelier of howling desolation. It's a niche skill. It settles under the immense accumulating weight of the snow on its roof with a sound like a giant cracking its knuckles. The timbers contract in the cold with sharp reports like a distant musket shot, each one sending a jolt of adrenaline through your already frayed nervous system. Was that the house, or something else? A tree branch, heavy with ice, finally giving up and crashing to the ground. Or perhaps a visitor. You strain your ears, holding your breath until your lungs burn, listening for the crunch of a snowshoe, for a voice, any voice, even an unfriendly one. But there is nothing, only the wind and the house. The silence, when it comes, is the worst sound of all. In the dead of night, when the fire has burned down to a bed of glowing embers and the wind has paused to catch its breath, the silence is absolute. It's so profound, you can hear the blood moving through your own veins. A faint internal rushing. You can hear the tiny, greasy crackle of the lice moving in your hair. You can hear the slow, agonizing grind of your own thoughts, turning over the same 3 miserable facts. You are cold, you are hungry, and you are alone. And your body is beginning to keep a detailed record of your suffering. It's a ledger written in aches and pains. Your knuckles are permanently swollen, the skin cracked and bleeding from a combination of cold, damp, and the rough, splintery handle of your axe. Healing is a luxury your body can no longer afford. Every small cut or scrape isn't a minor inconvenience. The cloth is stiff with old sweat and wood smoke. This isn't medicine. It's a formality. Let's talk about your teeth. They have become a subject of intense focus. Lately, when you press your tongue against them, they seem to move. Just a little. A subtle give that. Wasn't there a month ago. Your gums are puffy and have taken on a purplish. You've heard the stories from sailors and men who wintered too far north. Scurvy. A slow, gentle rotting that starts in the mouth. The good news is you're on an all-natural diet. The bad news is that diet consists of boiled deer, and for a little variety, slightly more boiled deer. Your body is the unfortunate beta tester for a nutritional program that consists entirely of protein and despair. Soon, chewing will be an exercise in careful navigation, trying not to unseat the very things you need to eat. You find yourself probing them with your tongue constantly, a nervous habit, cataloguing their slow, inexorable march towards desertion. It's a new hobby. And the smell. Oh, you've been marinating in it for months. The sour, stale scent of unwashed skin, of sweat that has soaked into your woolens and never truly dried. It's a constant acrid presence in the back of your throat. Then there's the faint but persistent odor of rancid fat from the venison stew, a greasy film that coats every surface, including the inside of your mouth. Add to this symphony the musty, damp earth smell from the corners where the snow melt leaks in, and the occasional sharp whiff of the chamber pot you empty as infrequently as possible. You don't notice it most of the time. You've become nose, blind to your own personal ecosystem of filth. But sometimes you'll shift a certain way or a draft will catch the scent just right, and you get a fresh, horrifying reminder of what you've become. It smells like decay. It smells like the inside of a tomb that someone is still living in. Your social life has become you curse the axe when it glances off a knot in the wood. You have long, one-sided conversations with the blackened pot that holds your dinner, asking it what its secret is, how it can bear to hold the same wretched stew day after day. It never answers. Stoic bastard. You call him Jean. You leave him the peas you spill, and he agrees not to die in the walls where you have to smell him. There's the optimist, a small, squeaky voice that insists the snow might melt tomorrow. He's an idiot, and you've learned to ignore him. There's the pragmatist, who just keeps a running tally of the remaining firewood and dried meat. He's boring but necessary. And then there's the critic. He's the loudest. He has a lot of notes. He likes to remind you of every mistake you've ever made, starting with the brilliant idea to come to this frozen hellscape in the first place. He replays your failures on a loop. The trap that was empty, the day you almost lost your footing and dropped the axe on your own leg, the time you thought you heard someone calling your name and you ran outside, screaming into the wind, only to be met with the silent, mocking judgment of the endless trees. Sometimes you find yourself pacing, 3 steps to the wall, turn through a smoky, stinking 6x6 pace cage. The floorboards have worn smooth in your path. You trace the patterns in the wood grain with your eyes. You count the logs in the wall. There are 112 on the long wall, 84 on the short one. You count them every day, just to make sure none have escaped. You've started to see faces in the smoke stains on the ceiling. A stern-looking man with a beard, a weeping woman, a skull. They watch you. They are your audience. Your silent, captive parishioners. Sometimes you preach to them. You tell them of your sins, of your hopes, of the gnawing, scraping loneliness that feels like a living creature chewing on your insides. They never applaud. They just stare. One morning, you wake up and the world is different. The wind is gone, and a pale, watery sunlight is filtering through the greased parchment covering your window. Hope. It's a dangerous, unfamiliar feeling. A warmth spreads through your chest that has nothing to do with the fire. The stew is almost gone. The pile of firewood is shrinking faster than your optimism. Your trapline, you haven't checked it in over a week. It's a risk. A huge risk. But staying here is also a risk. The process of getting ready is a monumental effort. You pull on your outer layers. The wool is stiff and cold. The deerskin coat feels like frozen cardboard. It smells like old blood and wood smoke. You strap them to your feet, feeling their awkward, reassuring width. You grab your musket, your powder horn, and a small pouch with a chunk of frozen venison, just in case. You take one last look at your little hovel, your prison, your sanctuary, and you push open the door. The cold hits you like a physical blow. It's a clean, pure, predatory cold. It steals the breath from your lungs and crystallizes it in the air before you. The world is blindingly white. The snow is piled high against the cabin, burying it halfway up the walls. The trees are transformed, their branches bowed low under thick coats of white, like ancient stooped figures. There is no path. There is nothing but an endless, undulating sea of snow under a pale, indifferent sky. The ridge that slopes down to the creek. Your thighs burn with the effort of lifting your feet out of the deep powder. The only sound is the rhythmic fake crunch. Shush. Crunch. Shush fey of your snowshoes. And the ragged sound of your own breathing. The air is so cold it feels like you're inhaling tiny needles of ice. Your beard is already a solid mass of frost. You don't feel the cold on your skin anymore. It's gone deeper. It's a dull ache in your bones. The trigger is sprung. The third is gone entirely, dragged away. The rope chewed through. Despair begins to creep in, cold and sharp as the wind that's starting to pick up. The sun, which had seemed so promising, is now obscured by a gathering bank of grey clouds in the west. The wind is changing its tune. The low moan is back. And then you see it. The fourth trapand there, dangling by its neck. It's frozen solid, its eyes wide with a surprise that has been immortalized by the cold. It's not much, it's scrawny, but it's food. A small, defiant punch in the face of this overwhelming white indifference. You feel a surge of triumph as you work it free from the snare. You secure it to your belt, its frozen body bumping against your leg like a macabre good luck charm. That's when you notice the sky. It's no longer just cloudy. They are not the gentle, fluffy flakes of a picturesque winter morning. They are small, hard and driven, stinging your face. You turn to head back, but you can't see the cabin. You can't even see the ridge you just came over. The world has dissolved into a swirling vortex of white. A white-out panic. It's cold and hot at the same time. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You try to find your tracks, but the new snow and the driving wind are erasing them as fast as you can make them. You are lost. 10 minutes from your cabin, and you are as lost as if you were in the middle of the ocean. The landmarks are gone. The world has shrunk to a radius of 10 feet. A frantic, blowing chaos. The wind snatches the sound from your mouth and rips it to shreds. You are shouting at nothing. You are completely, utterly alone. You have two choices. Stay put and freeze to death, Or pick a direction and walk. You pick the direction that feels right, a primal gut level guess. Every breath is a gasp time, ceases to have meaning. There is only the wind, the snow, and the burning in your legs. You are no longer a man. So close your eyes. The rabbit, frozen and hard, presses against your side. A stupid, scrawny rabbit. You fought for it. You won it. The thought is absurd, but it's enough. You push yourself up. You get to your feet, spitting snow. You take another step. You put your hands out, and you feel it, logs, rough bark. The familiar shape of your own prison. You have never been so happy to see a wall in your entire life. You claw your way along it, feeling for the door, your frozen fingers barely registering the texture of the wood. You find the latch, a clumsy block of wood. You wrestle with it, your hands refusing to obey. Finally, it gives. The door swings open. You fall inside, into the smoky, stinking, beautiful warmth, and kick the door shut against the screaming white fury outside. You lie on the floor, gasping. The silence of the cabin presses in, a stark contrast to the storm. You are shaking, not from cold, but from the violent aftermath of adrenaline. You risked everything for a few more mouthfuls of stringy meat. You start to laugh. You laugh until you're coughing, until tears are freezing on your cheeks. You are not the master of this domain. You are not a hardy pioneer. You are a rat in a trap, and you just barely manage to scurry back to your corner after a failed escape. The door is shut. The storm is raging. And you are. Your calendar is the level of the woodpile, the thickness of the frost on the inside of your walls, the slow, agonizing creep of your own shadow across the floorboards, as the sun makes its low, pathetic arc across the winter sky. It's February now, or maybe March. The distinction is academic. The snow is still just as deep. The cold is still just as personal. An intimate enemy that knows the exact location of every seam in your clothing. The romance of your little self-sufficient life has worn away, scoured clean by the relentless grit of reality. The charming crackle of the fire is now just a constant, nagging reminder of your next chore. Every pop and hiss is the sound of your finite fuel supply turning to ash. You don't hear a cozy hearth anymore. You hear a countdown. The crisp, satisfying thwack of the axe into pine. That sound is now inextricably linked to the deep, resonant ache in your lower back, a pain that has become a permanent resident in your body. It doesn't visit. It lives there now. It is signed a long-term lease. The novelty of solitude has curdled into something else entirely. It's a thick, heavy silence that presses in on you from all sides. It's not peaceful, it's vacant. Absence so profound, it becomes a presence in itself. You find yourself talking to the axe. You've named her Mathilda's She's, a better conversationalist than you are at this point. She has a single, sharp point to make, and she makes it over and over again. You have long, one-sided arguments with the blackened pot that hangs over the fire. It remains stoically, infuriatingly silent. Those are familiar, comforting. Even they're proof that something else is alive out there. No, you hear other things. A footstep on the roof, a soft scratching at the door, the whisper of your own name on the wind. The first few times, you grabbed the musket, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs, your breath fogging in the frigid air. You'd stand there for an hour motionless, listening, waiting. Nothing. The biggest threat out here isn't a bear or a band of Iroquois. It's the slow, quiet erosion of your own mind. It's the sound of your sanity unspooling like cheap thread. The cabin, your sturdy little fortress against the wilderness, has become a cage. You know every knot in the log walls. You've traced the walls and lines with your finger so many times you see them when you close your eyes. This is your open concept living space, your rustic studio apartment. All 60 square feet of it. The premium features include a persistent draft that modern science has yet to invent a name for, a floor that is approximately 70% dirt and 30% things you've spilled, and a unique olfactory profile that can only be described as smoked mammal and despair. Let's talk about hygiene, or rather, let's acknowledge its complete and utter absence. You haven't had what a modern person would call a bath in 4 months. You smell. There is a base note of wood smoke, so deeply embedded in your clothes and hair that it will never wash out. On top of that, there is the sour, pungent aroma of stale sweat. Then comes the faint, coppery tang of old blood from nicks and cuts. And finally, the rich, gamey perfume of rendered animal fat, which coats your hands, your face, your everything. You are a walking piece of jerky. You are profoundly, unforgettably fragrant. Your clothes are a testament to this. You melted snow in the pot and scrubbed them with a lump of lye soap that felt like holding a block of solid chemical burn. The result, the clothes were marginally cleaner and your hands were stripped raw. And within a day, everything was just as filthy as before. It's a battle you cannot win. The dirt is patient. The dirt is eternal. That little cough you had in December has decided to move in permanently. It's a deep, wet, rattling thing that shakes your whole frame. Sometimes you cough so hard you see stars. You spit a thick, greenish-yellow glob into the fire and watch it sizzle. You don't have the vocabulary for it. You just call it the lung sickness. It's a common ailment and a common cause of death. But there's a new player in the game, a more subtle, insidious decay. It started with a feeling of profound exhaustion, a weariness that sleep doesn't touch. Then your joints began to ache, not the sharp pain of injury. Old wounds, half-forgotten scars, have started to ache with a phantom memory of their original trauma. And then there are your gums. You notice it one morning while gnawing on a piece of hardtack, a strange sponginess, a metallic taste in your mouth that isn't the stew. You run your tongue over your teeth. They feel loose. They look like rotting fruit. You press a finger against them, and a bead of dark blood wells up instantly. Congratulations. You have scurvy. That romantic notion of living off the land. It turns out the land in winter is a little short on vitamin C or diet of venison, dried peas, and flour provides plenty of calories to keep you from starving. But it's missing a few key micronutrients. And your body is now staging a very quiet, very systematic protest. It is failing to produce collagen. That's the glue that holds you together. Quite literally. The good news is, your venison stew is now much easier to eat. The bad news is, it is because your teeth are preparing to abandon ship. They wiggle in their sockets like loose fence posts in soft ground. Chewing is a delicate, precarious negotiation soon. They will simply fall out. You'll join the ranks of the toothless, old before your time. But it gets worse. The lack of collagen means your capillaries are becoming fragile. Strange dark splotches appear on your legs and arms. The ghost of an impact you don't even remember. Your skin is dry and scaly. Your hair is brittle. You are, piece by piece, coming apart. You try to fight it. You remember hearing that the natives chew the needles of certain evergreen trees. You go out and gather handfuls of pine and spruce needles. You boil them into a bitter, turpentine-scented tea. It tastes like drinking a liquid Christmas tree. It's vile. The psychological landscape of scurvy is just as bleak. It brings on a profound lethargy, a deep and unshakable melancholy. The world seems grey. The effort to get up, to chop wood, to stir the pot, feels monumental. It's not the sound of melting snow from the roof. It's the sound of rain. A soft, steady patter. You stumble to the door, unlatch it, and push it open. The air that hits your face isn't the familiar, searing cold. It is cool, damp, and it smells different. Off-rot and renewal. All at once. The world, which has been a stark study in black and white for half a year, is slowly, painfully regaining its colour. You actually made it. You want to laugh. You take a deep, shuddering breath of the damp air, and a coughing fit doubles you over. But even as you gasp for air, a real, genuine smile touches your cracked lips for the first time in months. Don't get too excited. You thought you hated the snow. You sweet, naive fool. Welcome to the mud season, or, as the French call it, fais la gado fait. The frozen ground thaws from the top down, meaning the meltwater has nowhere to go. The entire forest floor transforms into a vast sucking quagmire. The world doesn't smell like renewal. It smells like a freshly opened tomb. The mud clings to your boots, growing heavier with each step, until you feel like you're walking in concrete. Sometimes you sink up to your shins. The effort to pull your foot free is immense. A wet, sloppy fetch-clorp fay that echoes in the damp air. The trail back to civilization doesn't exist anymore. It has been replaced by a river of liquid earth. Your little creek is no longer a charming trickle. It's a raging brown torrent, tearing at its banks, carrying fallen branches and debris with it. The world is awash. Your sturdy little cabin is now an island in a sea of muck. And with the thaw comes life. Not the majestic deer or the noble moose. Oh no. The first life to return is smaller. They rise from the stagnant puddles in a single, unified humming cloud. They are weak and slow at first, but they are legion, and they are hungry. They land on your face, your hands, the back of your neck. They find their way into your cabin, drawn by the warmth and the irresistible scent of a large, scurvy-ridden mammal. Their high-pitched whine is the new silence, a maddening soundtrack to your supposed salvation. After the mosquitoes come the black flies, tiny biting demons that swarm your eyes and ears and crawl into your hair. You were a prisoner of the cold. Now you are a prisoner of the mud and the insects. The freedom of the wilderness is just a rotating menu of different kinds of misery. You wait. You watch your food supplies dwindle. You are down to a few handfuls of flour and some dried peas. You hunt, but the animals are scarce, still recovering from the winter themselves. You manage to shoot a squirrel. You stew it, bones and all. It tastes of mud and desperation. The pine needle tea is your daily ritual, a bitter sacrament. You think your gums are bleeding a little less, or maybe you're just getting used to the taste of your own blood. Finally, weeks after the first thaw, the ground seems solid enough to travel. The trail is still a mess, a long scar of mud and ruts, but it is passable. It is time to go. It's time to take your pathetic collection of beaver pelts. You pack your meagre belongings, your axe, your musket, the remaining powder and shot, a small sack with the last of your flour, and the bundle of furs that represents your entire net worth. You take one last look at the cabin, the place you have hated and feared and depended on for so long. It looks small, squalid, pathetic. a dark smudge against the burgeoning green of the forest. There's no sentimentality, no fond farewell. You just turn your back and start walking. The mud is still treacherous. The black flies are a constant maddening presence. You sleep on the wet ground, wrapped in your single blanket, shivering in the damp chill, dreaming of nothing. And then you smell it, wood smoke, but not the clean scent of a single pine fire. This is the dense, layered smell of dozens of chimneys. The smell of humanity. You hear a dog bark, the sound of a distant hammer. You round a bend in the trail and you see it. It's a jumble of wooden buildings huddled behind a stockade, mud-choked streets, and a pall of smoke hanging over everything. As you get closer, the smells intensify. Wood smoke, yes, but also animal manure, human waste, the offal from a butcher's stall, the sour stench of a tannery. And after 6 months of smelling only pine, snow, and your own decay, it is overwhelmingly vomit, inducingly pungent. You walk through the gates. People stare at you. Of course they do. You are a sight to behold. You are gaunt. Your eyes are sunk deep in their sockets. Your hair is a matted, greasy mess, and your beard is wild and untrimmed. Your clothes are rags, stiff with filth and stained with God knows what. You look like a man who has wrestled with death and lost the match, but somehow managed to crawl away from the pin. He has a small, dark office that smells of stale tobacco and money. He looks you up and down, his nose wrinkling slightly. There's no warm greeting. No. Welcome back. This is a business transaction. You unroll your 7 prime winter beaver peth experience. He examines them one by one, holding them up to the light, running his hands over the thick, lustrous fur. He hums and haws. He points out imagined flaws. A thin patch here, a poorly scraped hide there. This is the classic customer service experience of the 1680s. A lot less. After he subtracts the cost of the flour, the powder, the shot, the traps, and the axe he advanced you last year. At a significant markup, of course. Enough to buy a new set of clothes, a few decent meals, a room at a boarding house for a month, and enough brandy to forget the last 6 months. For a little while, anyway. This is your profit. This is what you have to show for it. 7 dead beavers, and a case of advanced scurvy. Your body is broken. The romantic ideal of being a master of your own destiny in the wild frontier. You stand in the muddy street, the coins heavy in your pocket. A pig snuffles past your leg. A cart rumbles by, splashing you with filthy water. The noise of the town, the shouting, the hammering, the crying of a baby. It's a cacophony that grates on your nerves, accustomed as they are to the deep silence of the woods. The smells are making you dizzy. You feel utterly and completely alone, more alone than you ever felt in your cabin in the dead of winter. So there you have it. You survived a winter in New France. You didn't die of starvation or freezing or disease or an Iroquois raid or sheer crushing loneliness. You are one of the lucky ones. Your reward is that you get to do it all again next year. Because what else are you going to do? The alternative is being a tenant farmer back in Normandy, trading one form of grinding misery for another. This is the 17th century career ladder. Its rungs are made of pain, and the top is just a slightly less awful version of the bottom. Now look around you. You're probably sitting in a comfortable chair in a climate controlled room. You're listening to this on a device that holds the entirety of human knowledge and can order a pizza to your door in under 30 minutes. You have a soft bed with no memory of what it's like to have your own filth frozen to it. You have teeth, firmly rooted, healthy teeth. You can open your refrigerator and pull out an orange, a little globe of sunshine packed with glorious scurvy, preventing vitamin C, and you can do it without even thinking about it. That isn't just comfort, that is magic. It is a level of luxury and safety that a king in 1680 could not have dreamed of. The next time you find yourself complaining that your Wi-Fi is a little slow, or that your favorite coffee shop is out of oat milk, I want you to stop. I want you to take a second, and I want you to remember the taste of pine needle tea. Remember the feeling of your teeth wiggling in their sockets. Remember the thick, accusatory silence of a winter that never ends. Remember what it was like to be cold and hungry and sick, and profoundly, utterly alone, with nothing for company but an axe named Mathilda and the slow, quiet crumbling of your own body. Feel grateful, feel ridiculously, absurdly, profoundly grateful, because you have won the greatest lottery in human history. You were born now and not then, and that is the only thing that separates you from the mud, the blood, and the bitter,